There she was, gripping heavy-duty cutters, jaw tight with triumph, as the cargo door creaked open to reveal rows of riot gear, breaching kits, and one very startled German shepherd. 5 minutes later, Lieutenant Rourke pulled up, badge catching the first glint of morning light, and asked the words that would echo in our neighborhood for the next decade. Who in their right mind cut the lock on a counterterrorism vehicle? The woman pointed a perfectly polished fingernail at me. That man's been hiding paramilitary hardware on a residential street. Rourke blinked slowly, assessing the absurd scene. Ma'am, he said, in the tone of someone who had been through this sort of civilian meltdown far too often, that's our vehicle. I'm Cole Matheson, ex-police fleet specialist, now a government contractor working with the Ridgeview Emergency Tactical Division. I moved into Cedar Pines, a master-planned community where every house looks like it's been dipped in taupe paint, about 6 months ago. The place is a snoop's paradise. Everyone watches everyone. The HOA brags about its eco-monitoring drones that are really just flying tattletales. But the house was affordable, and my commute to the agency's staging facility was barely 20 minutes. Enter Sandra Briggs, president of the HOA, self-proclaimed Homeland Security hobbyist, and the kind of person who once threatened to tow a bicycle for being off-brand yellow. She ruled Cedar Pines like a small-town dictator, wielding rulebooks like weapons and wielding her position like a sheriff's badge. Her obsession with curated tranquility bordered on clinical. When I started parking the agency's black, unmarked tactical vehicle in my driveway for daily diagnostics, I anticipated a few stares. The thing is a beast, part truck, part mobile command post, but perfectly legal. I had full authorization while the city's vehicle depot underwent renovations. I didn't expect a war. Her opening salvo arrived via hand-delivered, notice of enforced review, at 6:58 a.m. on a Saturday. Printed in Comic Sans, it accused me of harboring intimidation assets and disrupting the visual serenity clause. I explained it was official government property, cleared for temporary staging, complete with permits and contracts. She didn't care. She just tapped her binder and said, "This is a residential street, not a war zone." A few days later, she escalated to the neighborhood app. Urgent alert. Unauthorized military presence detected on Birch Hollow Lane. Be vigilant. Report all suspicious movements. She included a grainy zoomed-in picture of the truck with cartoonish arrows labeling various components as missile mounts, actually door hinges, and surveillance uplinks. They were tied-down hooks. That weekend, things got weirder. While I was detailing my sedan, I caught her creeping near the truck holding a horseshoe magnet the size of a frying pan. "What are you doing?" I asked. She jumped like I'd caught her mid-crime. "Checking for electromagnetic leakage. My smartwatch has been acting funny." She then power walked away with suspicious cardio vigor for someone who always mentioned her sensitive heart. A neighbor later confided that Sandra didn't even own a smartwatch or a pacemaker. She'd apparently read somewhere that high-strength magnets could disable tracking systems. Then came the letters. Purple ink, overuse of underlines, all unsigned. They accused me of stockpiling weapons, planning a neighborhood uprising, and, my favorite, disrupting domestic stability through presence. Every letter reeked of Sandra's phrasing and included war rules that didn't appear anywhere in the actual bylaws. I stayed civil, even invited her to tour the vehicle, showed her the law enforcement tags, inventory logs, and equipment trays. She declined. "I don't enter paramilitary zones," she declared, backing away like I had a rocket launcher. At the next HOA board meeting, I came prepared: contracts, permissions, city seals, and a notarized letter from the agency director explaining everything. Sandra sat at the front table, her gavel gleaming under the overhead fluorescence. "These materials weren't submitted through the procedural triplicate route outlined in Section 12B, she barked. I pointed out that Section 12B didn't exist. She struck the gavel hard. "Well, it does now." Then came that Tuesday. At exactly 8:15 a.m., Sandra launched her operation. She wore all black athletic wear and a belt lined with labeled plastic folders and a laser pointer. Her hair was pulled into what I can only describe as a tactical bun. She marched up the driveway, glanced around for witnesses, then attacked the truck's rear cargo lock with a pair of industrial bolt cutters. The neighbor's doorbell cam got every glorious second in 4K. The video, later uploaded under the title "HOA Karen Attempts Tactical Coup," captured her snipping the padlock and yanking the door open like she was leading a hostage rescue. The interior of the truck was freshly loaded: shields, breachers, containers, gas masks, and curled up in the corner, Kaiser, the K9 unit, scheduled for a vet check later that day. As soon as Kaiser saw her, he let out a thunderous bark, the kind that translates to, "Step back, intruder." Sandra screamed and staggered backwards into my wife's garden, flattening her prized peonies. Still sprawled in the flower bed, Sandra grabbed her phone and frantically called 911. "Emergency," she yelled. "There's a militia staging gear on Birch Hollow Lane. He's got an attack dog and military-grade weapons." The dispatcher already knew whose vehicle it was. Within 15 minutes, 2 black SUVs and a cruiser rolled onto the street. Out stepped Lieutenant Rourke and his team, looking deeply unimpressed. Sandra scrambled toward them, panting, soil on her leggings, eyes wild. "He's transforming this street into a military zone," she shrieked. Rourke let her speak for about 10 seconds before raising a hand. "Ma'am," he said, "that vehicle is a Ridgeview emergency unit, assigned to my division. The lock you destroyed was secured under federal inventory protocol." He turned to me. "Cole, any equipment damaged?" "Nope," I replied, "just some bruised flowers." Sandra's face twitched as it cycled through shades of fury, embarrassment, and disbelief. Rourke faced her with measured gravity. "You just admitted to cutting into protected government property," he said. "That's interference with emergency operations. That's felony-grade trespass, and unauthorized access to a federal working K9 unit." Sandra blinked like she'd just swallowed a wasp. "But I'm the HOA president," she gasped. "I was defending the neighborhood." Rourke pulled out handcuffs. "Turn around. You're under arrest for destruction of federal property, unlawful entry into an emergency vehicle, and initiating a false emergency report." Phones were already recording. Nearly every neighbor was out, some in pajamas, some holding coffee cups, filming as Sandra was handcuffed and marched across the lawn. The local news aired it that night. HOA leader cuts into federal vehicle, blames neighborhood safety. The footage hit social media like wildfire. Within days, the video had 3.1 million views. Someone even made a techno remix of her scream when Kaiser barked. It topped meme charts. The HOA board convened a special session and voted, unanimously, to suspend Sandra pending legal proceedings. Meanwhile, Ridgeview's city prosecutor formally pressed charges, and Sandra was barred from coming within 500 feet of any government vehicle. My driveway. It was declared a temporary federal staging area. That meant any complaints about the vehicle became potential obstruction cases. The trial came quickly. Sandra's defense attorney, yes, her brother-in-law with an online law certificate, tried arguing she was conducting a voluntary civilian security sweep. The judge laughed. "You conducted a civilian inspection, with bolt cutters?" he asked. The security footage was shown. The police logos were clear as day. Sandra sat there stone-faced as the verdict was read. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 18 months probation, 200 hours of community service, specifically with the Ridgeview Emergency Response Division, and a fine of $14,000 for equipment damage, the police response, and Kaiser's veterinary stress care. When the sentence was read aloud, Sandra's jaw dropped so low a bailiff leaned forward as if expecting her to pass out. "But, I'm the HOA president," she whispered to her attorney. As if repeating it could undo reality. It didn't.